Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel. Today we're working on 2015 Kia Soul. We're replacing the front pads and rotors. Let me show you how you can replace yours like a pro. Alright, after you've jacked up the car, secured it with jack stands, remove the wheels. You want to turn the wheel to the direction you're working on. If you're working on the left side, turn the wheel all the way left to give you easier access to the bolts. Now we're going to start by removing these two bolts, the caliper bolts, 14 millimeter. Pull the caliper out. Never let the caliper hang down from the hose. That's how you damage the hose. Pull the caliper, place it on top, just like that. Now next, let's check our pins. Pins should move freely. If they are moving freely, leave them alone. Don't put excessive grease here. That's how they lock up down the road. They swell, the grease swells and locks up the pin. Do not put excessive grease here. Here's the second one. It's moving freely. I'm going to call this one good. Now we're going to remove the two 17 millimeter bolts right here, which secure the caliper bracket to the knuckle. Let's go ahead and do that. There's that. I moved the wheel this way to show you the two screws that you must remove to remove this rotor. Now, these screws are notorious to strip, especially if you live in the salty area where they use road salt. So the tool that's recommended to use is an impact screwdriver. Impact screwdriver looks like this. I will put a link down below for one that I recommend. How it works is, put the screw on, hammer it. Screw will start turning until it gets loose, and you take it out, just like that. This is a must-use tool for this, otherwise you'll strip the head of the screw and you will never be able to get it out. That is not stripped. Once you remove the two screws, the rotor should be free to come out. If it is not, hammer it here, lightly tap it until it gets loose like this, then remove the rotor. Now we're going to move on to installing the new rotor, but before that we will clean the surface with a metal brush. Doesn't matter the size. We will clean this area right here and lightly clean this area. After you're done with this, just like so, give it a quick brush. Make sure there's no big pieces of rust or big pieces of metal hanging. Just like that. No need to go with a power tool to make it all nice and shiny. After you've done this, you will bring your rotor. You will find these notched areas, these recessed areas where the screws are going to go, here and here. You're going to line them up where the screw holes are on the flange. So it looks like we're going to go like so. It only goes one way. Now, one thing I will say about the rotor before we start, this is the original rotor for the car from the dealership. It comes clean. It does not have any machining oil on it. If you're putting an aftermarket rotor that seems oily, make sure you clean it down properly with brake cleaner. You can buy this from any parts store. Alright, now we're going to prepare the pads and the pad holder. This is the part that most people don't do right. The first thing is pull your pads. If they pull easily like that, that's a good sign. That means the pads are not seizing up in here. One other thing is, the two pads are not the same. The inner and the outer pad. The inner pad, or the piston side pad, will have the wear indicator. Here's the new pad. Here's a wear indicator. This always goes on the inside toward the piston of the caliper, not on the outside toward the wheel. Now we're gonna put these away. Preparing this. It's very important to prepare this the right way. First, you're going to remove the fitting kit, and this one is broken already. Remove this. We will take a metal brush and give this area a quick brush. Make sure you work in a well ventilated area because this is brake dust and rust, and it's not good for your health. To this, we're gonna flip it, do the same on this side, just like so. If you have a lot of rust buildup, you need to brush it more, make sure it's nice and smooth. After you're done, just like that, you're gonna grab the new ones, put them on, make sure they are clipped on securely, just like so. Do the other side. Next, you will put some grease here. This has to be high temperature grease. I recommend you just buy it at the parts store or ask the dealership for high temperature grease. This is just the one I'm using. I'm not recommending any brand. You're gonna put a little bit, just like so, in these areas. And then you're gonna smear it here and here. We're not putting big amounts, small amounts. Just like that. Just like that. This will help the pads move freely and not get stuck down the road. Now we're going to move on to installing the pad. I want you to watch the direction of the wear indicator. One pad will be in the same direction as the old one. The other pad will be the other way. This is the pad for the passenger side. We're working on the driver's side. Now you should test fit your pads. You want your pad to go in not very loose, but not tight, that you can easily move it like so. If it's too loose, you're gonna have noise every time you change direction. You put it in reverse, you hit the brakes, clunk. It's not a bad thing, but you want to avoid it. Now, if your pad does not move like this easily by hand, you need to take the fitting kit, you need to take this and clean this area more. If it's too rusted and you can't get it with a wire brush, try using a file. Clean this area really good until your pads fit easily. There it is, all assembled. I like to assemble my pads in the caliper bracket before I install it. This is a personal choice. You can put them on in the car once you've tightened the bolts, or you can do it like I did. That's up to you. All right, now let's install our pads and pad holder, just like so. I will include all the torque specifications for these bolts in the description below. Now we move on to compressing the caliper piston. Before you do that, make sure your fluid level is not full. If it is full, when you compress it, it will overflow and make a big mess in your garage. So make sure you check that. You could use a turkey baster to pull the fluid out. Make sure it doesn't touch any paint, as it will damage it. Now, there are multiple tools out there. This is the style tool that I like to use. I will link it in the description below. Alternatively, you could also use big channel locks, C-clamps. There's a lot of ways to do this. This is what I use in the shop. This will apply even pressure to the piston and compress it. When you're compressing pistons, make sure you do it lightly so you can feel if the piston is binding. Once your piston is all compressed, we will apply light coat of grease over the face of the piston. This will prevent any noise from the brakes, and also apply them here in the areas, in the contact areas where the caliper will contact the pads. Once you are done, one thing you will watch for is the orientation of this hose. Make sure this hose is not twisted like this. Make sure it is straight, like so. Install our caliper. It should go in very easily. We're going to install our 2 bolts. And you're all set. Torque specifications for these bolts will be in the description below as well. After you're done with this side, do the same on the other side. Make sure once the car is on the ground, pump the pedal. You'll see that it's soft, then it'll get harder, and then it'll get hard and firm. That's what you want. Otherwise, you will have no brakes and you could crash the car. Be very careful with this. One more thing I want to mention. When you tighten these bolts, if this inner pin starts turning, you could use a vice grips or a really thin spanner to hold it while you torque this to specification. If this pin is seized, you have to get it out, grind the pin, get it out just like so. Just like so. You will see all kinds of corrosion here. Grind the pin clean. Put very light coats of grease here. Do not put excessive grease here, otherwise this pin will lock and it'll be pushed out. This pin should go in and stay in, not pop out on its own. If it does, this will cause a brake drag and you will have all kinds of problems down the road just because of excessive grease use. If you think there's a lot of grease, you can reach in with a screwdriver, scoop it out, put the pin back. This is how the pin should be. It should stay in, not pop out on its own. Please make sure you pump the pedal before you drive the car. Also take it for a test drive. Make sure there are no noises, no vibrations. Make sure you check that description for the tool list and the torque specifications. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe, like the video, check out my other videos on the channel. May the Lord bless you. You have a nice day.